The applicant, Michael Anderson, on behalf of Independence Recycling of Florida, is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a concrete recycling facility at 84 Golden Knights Boulevard. The concrete recycling facility is a recycling and mulching composting facility per section 28-217, which requires a CUP. The future land use designation on this property is industrial. The subject property is within the airport impact area overlay and is limited to a maximum building height of 50 feet. Planning and Zoning Commission considered this request at their April 6, 2022 meeting and recommended approval 4-2 with 4 conditions that are on your agenda. And this is the public hearing, the final public hearing, and it is quasi-judicial, and you're familiar with the procedures. Ms. Fusaka is here to answer questions that you may have before the applicant.
So yeah, this is our Titusville city planner saying that they would like to give a conditional use permit so that these folks can build a concrete smashing plant next to people's homes on River Edge Drive, next to a huge church with a school for little kids, near a public park, near the Enchanted Forest, and a bunch of really brand new beautiful hotels that are meant to be for space tourists, and uphill from our river. And the mitigation plan is that they're going to pour water on the dust, and that dust will go down the hill into the Indian River Lagoon. So please look at these maps carefully. Here's what the citizens of Titusville have to say about this.
I was at the PNC meeting. When this was presented to PNC, I thought surely they would deny the permit. It is so obvious this is a disaster waiting to happen in so many ways beyond noise and dust. The presenter even admitted that dust control would be only partially effective with their system of misting the dust as the water runoff becomes impervious. You know, it is concrete dust after all. So they wouldn't use that much misting. And I wonder, where will the water come from for the misting? And we all know where it eventually will go, right across Highway 1 into the Indian River Lagoon after their retention ponds get clogged and don't work anymore, like so many of the retention ponds in the city. And the estimated 50 trucks per day, he didn't mention that, but he was asked at P&Z what kind of traffic. 50 trucks, maybe about a minimum of 50 trucks a day. Well, I drive into Orlando many times on Highway 50, and east of Titusville is an area off the highway that dozens of big dump trucks enter empty and come out filled with dirt. And the dust the trucks throw covers the road for maybe half a mile down Highway 50, both directions. And it blows in the wind, so you get dust. You have to roll up your windows, make sure you have your AC on when you go by there, and the trucks are moving. And add the traffic hazard of large loaded dump trucks entering US 1 and making left turns across the traffic lanes. Also, the proposed site for this concrete crushing plant is right at the entrance to that little Tico airport. Why would city planners want to allow a noisy, dusty, disease-inducing industry be built at the entrance to what could become a real tourist site? You know, the Warbird Museum is there, and it's an airport. It could eventually be a viable airport where we could go and get tickets and get on a plane and go somewhere. But first you have to get dusted as you pass the concrete crusher. So the plant is proposed to be operated at one of the entry points to the city, and you have decided to spend over $1 million of the tree mitigation fund to beautify the entryways. And now you're going to allow something like this to be put right there on Highway 1, where everybody driving up from the port and from Cocoa and from Melbourne will pass by and get dusted. So the developer said it being near the railroad tracks was a plus. Let me finish this. Because they will be bringing in concrete trash from distances, and we can welcome imported garbage with all its toxins and pollutions. And a point of order, why did this go to P&Z before it went to TEC? Why does the planning department accept these applications in the first place? Who profits from allowing this kind of stupidity to be brought into our town? Certainly not the nearby residents, or the tourists, or the citizens of Titusville.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Schricker.
I'm a resident here in Titusville and live on River Edge Drive. I've given everyone a packet tonight. The first picture you will see is a picture that I got from the owner's website, Independence website. And this is what we will look at each day when we ride by this area.
Here's the photo that she provided.
The second picture is the picture of a sign that was posted on the property. This is the only way that we found out about this hearing tonight. I live right across the street from this property. You would think that I would have received something in the mail saying that this was going on and given every resident there in that area an opportunity to come tonight. And myself and one other neighbor is here, and that's it, because no one knows about this. So I don't agree with the notice that we were given. I gathered all this information together today and came tonight to speak on behalf of our area. This area is growing with leaps and bounds. We've got two new hotels in the area. We've got a church and a school together located right there. We have the Police Hall of Fame. We have the airport that is growing and a new company that is coming in that's going to have hundreds of jobs, space tourism company to bring jobs. All of that is coming right into this area that is going to be taken up by trucks and concrete dust and so forth. One of my biggest concerns that we've already heard about tonight is the runoff from this concrete down the slope. If you ride by there, you'll see there is an obvious slope right down to the river. All of that water is going to come right through our yards and right into the river. You know, this weekend, I was out there looking at a manatee trying to eat a palm frond. Huge manatee, and it was trying to eat a palm frond because it was lacking of food. You know, we've already lost hundreds of manatees already this year, and you'll see articles in my packet for that as well. Another thing I would like to bring up is that the Independence Company states that they have 8 other locations. I've gone and done aerial maps of all of those locations, and you'll see that in the packet. You'll notice that all of the other locations are in industrial locations. They're not in neighborhoods. They're not adjacent to riverside homes. They're not adjacent to schools and churches. They're in industrial locations. And that was brought up in the
Can you finish
PNC
in 1
meeting.
minute? Because we're going to extend your time if you continue on. Can you finish in 1 minute?
Yes, I'll try.
Can I have a motion for 1 minute?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Go.
So another item that during the PNC meeting, there was 2 no's, and the no's were because of the water runoff and the location, because this is your south entrance to Titusville. Is this what we want to portray? They talked about the noise, a noise variance. 65 is the limit. You know how much a toilet noise is? 70. You really think that this is going to be less than a toilet flushing? So, and then one more thing. The owner got up during the PNC meeting and said that he bought the property not knowing that this bridge was being built. We've got a bridge, $126 million project that's going to open up our space industry and improve our area. He bought the property on May 6th of 21. The groundbreaking was December of 21.
Interesting being a member of the Environmental Commission and finding an environmental issue showing up at P&Z, but it never showed up at TEC. You'd almost think that maybe there wasn't any environmental impact from this industrial site. It's just industrial wastewater, right? Because it comes from an industrial facility.
Hold right there. City Attorney, would you go ahead and give, because I asked that same question about it possibly being at TEC first.
Time?
And I'd like to, no, at the top, the clock has stopped. I'd like to have, at least the definition of what goes to TEC at this time, because that's certainly been a concern. And I had the same concern and asked the question.
Yeah, why didn't this go before the Titusville Environmental Commission? Note the discomfort of the city manager who is on the right in your screen right now while they're being asked that question.
Under Titusville Environmental Commission Article 9, it states specific responsibilities of the commission. There are several. One is to review environmental or water resource issues as selected by staff and submit to the Planning and Zoning Commission as part of applications for rezonings, CUPs, etc., and make recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Commission on said environmental issues, being the issues selected by staff with regard to environmental or water resource issues. Of course, council can ask the TEC to provide input on items that you desire them to provide input on as well.
Silicon dioxide is a carcinogen. That's the byproduct of crushing concrete. They can be small, a 30th the size of a human hair. They're not visible, but yet they'll get lodged in the lungs. They'll cut the alveoli. They cause cystic fibrosis, and they cause lung cancer. This is a known fact. This is what we're going to be putting into the air. The research that I did in the last couple of days indicates that these plants can produce a powdery-like substance that can carry for over a mile. So I wonder how the people at the Marriott and Hyatt are going to think about when their customers complain about the dust on their cars. I also wonder what it's going to be like walking through the quiet of the enchanted forest, listening to these machine gun-like sounds coming from the rock crushers. They run about 90 decibels, according to OSHA or NIOSH as they are now. So that's something to consider too. And the distance falls off, with distance squared, at least the decibel scale does. So it might be 65 by the road, but you're still going to hear it when you have a gentle breeze, just like you can hear the cars on I-95 from a mile away, or you hear the airplane flying by. This is not the right location. It's downhill 400 yards, approximately a quarter mile from the Indian River Lagoon. But most importantly, the material is very basic. It's not acidic like our environment. And when you put basic and acids together, they neutralize one another. So this stuff is caustic to our land and to our waters. Our lands have a pH of about 5.3 to 5.8. This stuff's well above 8, 8.5. So there's a neutralizing effect that's going to happen to the environment that's not natural. That's not right. This is just another cut against the Indian River Lagoon. You allow this to go. Because the silica, while it may flow into a stormwater pond and become just polluted stormwater, the material, the source material, is unknown. There could be anything spilled in this concrete. It could come from any state in the country over the rails without any inspection whatsoever. You'll have no idea what's being broken apart, what's being crushed, and what's going to go in the river. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you do an online search for issues with concrete crushing plants, you will find numerous articles about communities and the problems they've had with odor, noise, dust, and pollution. And I'm not going to go through all the health issues because Michael did a really good job. So the residents that live along the river, the retirees in the nearby trailer parks, are unaware of this project. And then what about the new residents in as yet unbuilt homes in Verona and the $1 million riverfront homes that are proposed for Tranquility Bay? What do you think they're going to think about this project? And what about Tom Statham Park? These emissions are particularly problematic for children who can be exposed to higher levels of pollutants in relation to their body size. Other communities pass legislation to keep concrete crushing facilities from being located near parks and residential areas. Now, we want to consider allowing one to go in across the street from Tom Statham Park and so close to the river. And where will the water that's going to be used to hold the dust down come from? Are we just going to stick another straw into Titusville's aquifer in order to satisfy the wants of an out-of-town company whose only interest is to find the closest place near a railroad to crush concrete coming from the destruction of the NASA Causeway Bridge, the Searstown Mall, and, other places? There's an industrial park 10 miles down the road, Sidco Park, that is the appropriate place for this type of activity, and guess what? It's got rail access too. Space tourists pay $55 million to launch from our community. Do we want for their impression of Titusville to be that we have a concrete crushing plant at the gateway to the Space Center and the universe? And by the way, I guess staff decided in their infinite wisdom that this particular project wasn't environmental enough to come before the TEC. Thank you.
Okay, I really hate to see myself on video, and I don't want to look conceited, but I do want to point out that I said to them to their faces that we are lacking in transparency in our government in Titusville, and it's a really important issue. I also had, well, it's hard to go after all that because I had the same concern about how this just appeared here for you guys to vote on without the TEC looking at it. And I guess the answer is staff thought it wasn't something that the Environmental Commission should look at. And that's astonishing to me because I think most people know that silica causes all kinds of COPD and cancers. And that's what you're talking about. And by the way, the recycling part is bugging me. Okay, you cannot recycle concrete. You're not recycling it, you're just smashing it. Okay, because you can't undo the process that made it. So you're smashing something into little bits that people can breathe in. I teach Tai Chi at the Enchanted Forest every Saturday morning for free because I don't like people to fall. And, we can hear the traffic from 95. We can hear the planes, but we also hear tons and tons of birds and animals, a lot of pigs, a lot of wild pigs. Tycho, I've actually gone birding there on many occasions. That's how good the birds are. And we've all seen like 12, 15 turkeys crossing the road there, Route 50. That's a beautiful natural area. And I also agree with Tony that why are we beautifying that entryway to Titusville in order to put concrete trucks rumbling up and down it? I agree with everything that everybody said, and I think obviously it should have been looked at for environmental reasons. I don't know why seems to be a lack of transparency sometimes in our government.